Yes.
All right.
And, I want to now. Hopefully, you had a chance to look at that video. I posted a little pre-video that went over a few things. It went over the syllabus in some detail. I just kind of want to briefly run over the syllabus in case someone didn't get a chance to see that video. If you didn't see it, make sure you look at your announcements today, and you'll see a link to a video that kind of introduces you to the course and introduces you to our Blackboard. So have a look at that. But right now you should be looking at the syllabus. You should be able to see it. Can everybody see the syllabus?
Yes.
It's a little small.
It's real small. I don't know how to make it larger.
Mine automatically changed to it, so
Okay. It changed sizes.
yeah.
Okay.
I think you have to change
Oh,
your
I
view
see.
mode.
There's a little like.
If you
Yeah,
double click
there's
on
a
it, it
little,
moves it in.
zoom button.
Is there a button to change it?
Mine was on the top right.
Yeah, like,
Oh, okay. I see.
yeah, mine's on the top left. Show view controls.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Now I'm making mine larger. Is yours getting larger? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, in the upper left-hand corner, there is a little box, and you'll see you can adjust that. But I won't be sharing a whole lot of files, so I'm just doing this today. So guys, I want to ask you one thing. Go ahead and mute your microphones, and if you have to make a comment or if you want to ask a question, you can unmute it, ask the question, and then mute it back. What this system does, collaborates. It kind of works like actually like a real movie camera. It cuts away to who's ever talking. So if I stop talking and you start, if somebody walks in the room, there's some background noise, it'll actually cut away from me and go to you. And so we don't want that to happen while I'm teaching. So go ahead and mute your microphones and feel free to interrupt me at any time. You can unmute your microphone, ask a question, and then mute it back and wait for the response. And then also, hopefully, you guys have used this system before. If not, you have the ability to send each other messages and to send me messages. However, I'll be looking at the screen for the next few minutes, but when I'm on the whiteboard, I'm usually not looking at the screen. I'm usually looking into the camera. So if you have a question, just interrupt me and you can ask. I do have a few people who you called in. I don't know if you're able to ask questions if you dial in or not. I'm not really sure how that works. We'll see if we can figure it out. So just briefly, I want to welcome everybody to Circuit Analysis 1. You're in section 200. You want to make sure that you're familiar with your section number. I teach 3 circuit analysis courses, and everybody turns in work, the same type of work. So you want to make sure that anything you hand in to me for a grade, anything that you hand in to me has that section number on it. So the course number is EET 131. And the important thing to write is section 200, section 200. That's the evening section. And so my name is Ron Singleton. You can call me Professor Ron. You can call me Ron. Whatever. It's all right. Just don't call me anything bad. I mentioned in the video about the contact information. I highlighted certain things here in red. Notice that the number to text is highlighted in red. That's because that's the best way to get a hold of me. I've already talked to several students over the weekend. I had a couple people text me with questions and comments and all of that. So feel free to text me at any time because that is not a cell phone. That text number is a Google Voice. If you're familiar with Google Voice, it's a number that you can treat as if it's a cell phone, but it allows me to, since a lot of students like to text, it allows me to give you the ability to text me. And usually I have a computer in front of me, or if it's not directly in front of me, at some point during the day, I check my computer very, very often during the day. So that is by far the best way to get a hold of me, is to send me a text at that number. You can also call the number and leave a voice message if you have to. My email is listed there, and I'll be honest with you, I don't check my email as often as I should, but if you have to email me, you can do that. If you have to send me anything, now normally I do not accept anything by email, no assignments by email, unless we agree on it. And what I mean by that is, When you have to turn an assignment, usually I'm going to have those assignments scheduled to be turned in on the day that you come to lab. You come to lab on Tuesdays. I'll see you face to face on Tuesdays. And so anything that's going to be handed in will be handed in on Tuesdays. However, every once in a while, I'll have you submit an assignment directly to Blackboard, or if for some reason, because of the COVID situation, if we end up going completely online, and I'll have you submit everything up to Blackboard. And so I will never, ever accept anything outside of the Blackboard system. So I have some students that will miss the deadline and they'll email me an assignment. So what I'm saying is I won't accept assignments by email unless you and I agree that that's the way we're going to do it. So don't send me something by email and think it's turned in, because it's not. If you miss the link, what happens is when I make a link on Blackboard, those links are time-stamped. So let's say your assignment, you have an assignment due on January 24th, and usually those links expire at midnight. So if you miss that time, if you wait till past midnight, then the link disappears and you can't submit it. What I have students do is they'll frantically send me the assignment by email, and what I'm telling you is I won't accept anything by email. So please don't do that. Office hours are listed here. Now, in the video that I had you watch, I said that I would only do phone visits or phone hours or on the web by video. But I will actually do face-to-face if we need to do that. We just have to make sure that that you wear masks and that you're socially distanced. I take care of my mom. She's almost 80 years old, so I'm trying to be really, really, really careful for me not to get sick and to make her sick, because that wouldn't be good for me. So typically, if you have a question, what happens is right after the class is over, I have a little time. So I'll keep the camera rolling. And if there's a question that we can answer just kind of online, maybe we have a question about how to work a homework problem, or maybe something wasn't clear, I'll take time after class to go over anything you want me to go over. And usually that resolves about 90% of any kind of anything that's unclear, any kind of questions that students have. I can do that right after class. However, if you need more detail, or you need more one-on-one, I can actually schedule a separate session with you, and I can send you a link, and we can work through the camera. Some students prefer to work face-to-face, and I'm saying I'm willing to do that. I will see you pretty much once a week, every week. So sometimes you can hold your question until you come in for lab, and then I can actually sit down with you, and we can work on paper on the whiteboard to solve any problems or address any issues. But just be aware of the number there for you to text. And these hours here are hours that I'm on campus during those hours. So if you do want to do face-to-face, that will be the time to come if you have questions during my office hours. However, I do have hours available outside of those times listed on the syllabus. So if those hours don't work for you, just send me a text or send me an email, and we'll schedule a different time. I'm going to leave it to you to read the course description. You're here for circuit analysis. Circuit analysis 1 to be specific, and by the end of the semester, you'll know exactly what those words mean. So we'll just kind of wait and kind of work through that, and these topics here you should find pretty interesting. So down here there's a link. Most students are not interested in this, but there's program learning outcomes. If you're familiar, if you want to know more about those, you can click that link and look at those. And then there's also I mentioned in the video, the introduction video, there's another link I want to provide, actually a document, just for safety. And I didn't post it. It shows it in the video that I gave you, but it doesn't show it on Blackboard because I haven't posted yet, because I got to get the updated version of it. So when I do that, I will be sending that out. And probably the most important thing for you guys, though, would be the grading scale here. So if you notice, as I said in the video, a grade on the 10-point scale, and then the categories, you'll have exams, you'll have quizzes, there'll be homework, and then there's lab work, and the weights are shown on the syllabus. Typically, I have 4 exams, and if we were meeting face-to-face, we'd have 3 in-class exams, and we will have 1 take-home exam. And I was able, even though we're meeting by web, I was able to still follow that format. And the way I was able to do that is I just used 4 of the lab days to give exams. And so that's probably what I'll do, is to continue to use our lab days when I want to give an exam. You'll have the exam, and then you'll probably do a short lab after the exam. So we'll continue. We'll have 4 exams, 3 in-class exams, and 1 take-home exam. So we only really need 3 lab days to do exams. So those exams, be careful not to miss an exam. I don't really give makeup work. Now, considering the situation with the COVID and all the other things going on in the world, there may be a possibility you miss an exam. That exam, if you miss, will be excused if it's for medical reasons, or if there's maybe you have a death in the family. You just have to be able to provide documentation, proof that you're in the hospital or that you were sick, and then I'll be happy to give you a makeup exam. Quizzes are different. You have a quiz pretty much every week, and those quizzes, I will not give a makeup quiz. However, I will drop, on the video I said I'll drop 2 of the lowest quiz grades, but I decided to drop 3 of the lowest quiz grades. Since we're dealing with this COVID situation, I want to be just a little bit more flexible. So if you miss a quiz, please do not ask for a makeup. Because I'm not giving makeups, I'm going to drop the 3 lowest quizzes. So if you get a 0, it will not affect your grade until you get 3 zeros or 3 low grades. Blackboard will be set up automatically to drop your lowest 3 grades. So as you, if you watch your GPA or your grade point average in Blackboard, it'll already be programmed to do that. So what you're seeing is what your grade actually is. I don't drop at the end. It actually drops it as soon as I start putting grades in. It's already set up to drop that lowest grade. For the class, you will need some materials. You will need a textbook. You will need a lab manual. The title of the textbook here I have on the syllabus, and the title of the lab manual is also on the syllabus. I did not provide the ISBN numbers, but these books, you can go to the bookstore website. These books are available in the bookstore. I did have a student tell me that, I don't know, a couple days ago, the books weren't in yet. So I don't know if they're in yet or not. And because I don't know if they're in yet, what I did for the first homework assignment, I just made a copy of the assignment out of my book, and I posted that to Blackboard. So if you look in the folder for homework, you'll see a document that you can click on, and that's just a PDF of the problems that I copied, along with the answers to the odd number problems, so that you have homework, the ability to do homework if you don't have a book yet. But you definitely need a book for the course. Last semester I had 1 or 2 students that went through the whole course without buying a book, and neither one of those students, needless to say, they didn't pass the class. So make sure you that you get a book. If you have any trouble for any reason getting a book, then let me know, and then we'll see if we can work out something else. But you definitely have to have the textbook. Most of the homework is out of the textbook, not all of it. A lot of it is. But then there's readings every week that you have to do, and all those readings are out of the textbook. Now, what we're going to do tonight, if you don't have a book yet, I think you'll be okay. You've probably done this stuff before, or if you haven't done it before, I think my notes and presentations should be clear enough for you to be able to complete the homework without actually reading the first chapter of the book. However, if you do have the book, please go ahead and read that first chapter. And I think that's really all I want to say about the syllabus. There is one more part where if you have any kind of disability, I'll refer you to the syllabus. You can read about that yourself. And if that's an issue with you, just send me a text or give me a call or email, and we'll work out any kind of services that you might need if that applies to you. Does anybody have any questions over the syllabus? I know I went through it kind of quickly, but again, I did post that video earlier, and you're able to go back and look at that, and it goes into more detail. Anybody have any questions over the syllabus? Questions or comments? Okay, well, let me get out of this view, and I do see, okay, those weren't to me. I see a couple messages. All right, so guys, let me, can you guys see me? Is the camera on? Are you able to see me?
Yep, looking good.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Great, all right. So a couple things. So welcome. This is what I look like. Some of you might have met already. I don't know. It's kind of hard. I'm a person that likes to teach face to face because of the situation. Of course, we went online, but the bad part about that is I don't really get to know my students. So you don't have to, but it's kind of nice when you guys open up your cameras. Again, if you mute your microphones, because when you talk, the video cuts away from me and goes to wherever the audio is. So if your dog starts barking in the background, it's going to cut away from me, and that's what people will see. But it's nice to for me to associate names and faces, and it'll take me a little bit longer since I'm not seeing you guys. I'm only seeing you once a week, but I think if I see your picture on the video enough, and then I think your names come in there. I think pop up there. And I see a couple people. One guy's Mike is drinking. I hope that's not alcohol, Mike. He's sitting there in his bedroom, and let me see. Is that? I can't see your name. Is it Nin? Nin? How do you pronounce it?
Yes, it's Ning.
Nin?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably mess that up.
Yeah.
So, guys, welcome. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun in this class if you're really interested in the subject. Just a little bit about me. I've been teaching. I've never had a real job. I've only taught all my life. I graduated from college, UC, Xavier, and Wright State. I have degrees in physics, engineering, and liberal arts. My first love is physics, so I teach all the engineering courses from a physics point of view, from what I call first principles. And what that means is that I start pretty much every concept talking about what things really are. Like, we won't just talk about voltage. You're going to know what that word really means. What is voltage? We don't just talk about current. You're going to know exactly what electrical current is. We don't just talk about resistance and use it. You want to know, or we start with the question, what is resistance? I really understand when you know the essence of what we're talking about, then when you put it together to make something happen in the real world, it just makes it just that much more interesting. So I think we'll have a lot of fun. If you're really interested in the topic, you'll get it from a kind of a unique perspective. So I made a quick list here. I want to just go down this before we actually start. I did already mention that even though in the video it says that I will only do meet by phone or by web, I will do in-person meetings as long as we're masked up and we maintain social distancing. I don't think that'll be a problem. There is a lab posted, and I need to go in and check. One of the things you'll need, and I didn't mention, you need not only the textbook and lab manual, you'll also need a 3-ring binder. What you should do here is when I post these documents, if you have the ability to print those documents out, and you can punch those and put them in your 3-ring binder. That's a really, really good way to study. If for some reason you don't have access to a printer, when you come up here on Tuesdays, let me know and I'll print the documents out for you. I'll even 3-hole punch them for you, and you can stick them in your 3-ring binder. So it's important that you get the binder. You also want to get a set of coloring pens or pencils. The reason for that will become clear probably around the 3rd or 4th week of class, but no less than 4 colors. Some of those ink pens with the things on the side you can click, some students will get those. You're limited to 4 or at most 6 colors. If you get coloring pencils, you have a lot more options for color. So you'll need those, and they're going to actually help you solve problems. The other thing you'll need is some kind of straight edge, a ruler, either a 6-inch ruler or a 12-inch ruler. You'll need that to draw electrical diagrams. Electrical diagrams are called schematics. Think of them as a road map to describe what a circuit looks like, and from that you can understand what it does. And so you'll use that ruler to draw your lines and to make them straight. I recommend a ruler. You don't have to have a clear ruler, but I recommend getting one that you can see through. That way, if you lay the ruler on top of the diagram, you can still see the lines under the ruler. So you can get away if you already got the ruler or you have a solid or wooden ruler, you can use it. But I think you'll find the clear ruler a little bit better for what we want to do in this class. So you'll need the ruler. You also need a meter, and I'll say more about this. It's called a digital multimeter. Now, again, I mentioned this in the video, but that is probably the most used electrical test equipment on the planet, the digital multimeter. And I mentioned in the video that you can go to any hardware store and buy one of those meters. They'll run you anywhere. I've seen them as cheap as $5, and it's expensive. They can go up into the hundreds. A good price point's $25, $30, $40. I had some students last semester go to Harbor Freight and get some really, really, really nice meters for almost nothing. So that's an option. And then there's a link that another professor has his students go to buy, so they all have the same meter. You can also get it online. So if you want that link, you can ask me and I'll send the link for you and you can get it online. But you will need the digital multimeter. It's kind of nice. Now we do have those, and you can't see the lab yet. We have equipment here. We have meters here. So if you show up and you don't have a meter, you can use the one that we have here. But two things. Number one, that meter allows you to do stuff at home, and sometimes you might have to do that. And the second thing is, in some labs, you'll need 2 meters. So if you only have the one that we have here, it makes doing the lab a little bit more difficult. If you have 2 meters, sometimes you got to measure voltage and current at the same time, and you can only measure one or the other with the meters that we have here. So if you have your own meters, it'll make the lab run a little bit smoother. So I want to mention that to you. So you need the 3-ring binder. I would try to get that right away. The digital multimeter, you want to get it right away. You'll need it for the first lab. The first lab is, I'm going to have you go, you may have seen this on Blackboard already. You'll go, there's a link to a video. You'll watch this video, and then you'll just write a summary about what you learned in the video. He's going to talk about voltage, current, resistance, what those terms mean, and how to use a meter, the digital multimeter, to measure those quantities. And so it's kind of nice to have your meter bought already and kind of right there when you watch the video. Now, some of you already know how to use a digital multimeter, but if you've never used it before, it's nice to have it right there as you go through the video, and it just makes it make a little bit more sense. So you will need that meter. And again, if you have any issues finding a meter, or you have any questions about which one to buy, you can always send me a text, and I'll be happy to address that. The other thing I have written is, I already mentioned the safety policy link. I'll post that document at some point when I get the updated one. It'll be before we meet for class. Anytime you come to campus, you will need, of course, a mask. So make sure you have masks, and then there will be stations in here for you to come in, and you can use a hand sanitizer and alcohol pads. We just want to keep everything clean and sterilized and make sure that we stay as safe as we possibly can. And then in the video that I posted, in that video it mentioned that if you're in the class that you're in, circuit analysis, it mentions that the homeworks are posted at the bottom of each topic sheet. Well, I changed that. I took the homework off the topic sheet, and when you go to Blackboard, you'll see there's a folder, a dedicated folder, where I'll list the homework. So hopefully you had a chance to look at Blackboard already, and you'll see that homework 1 is already posted. The reason I did that is I think it's a little easier to find stuff if it's all in one place. Instead of having the homework assignment spread out among 15 different folders, I got everything right there in that one folder called homework. And in that folder right now, you'll see a copy of homework 1. So make sure you click on that homework 1 link to see what problems you have to work, and then I provide those problems for you for this first homework assignment, and then there's a solution sheet for the odd number problems. And then also I added today another kind of like, I don't want to call it an extra credit assignment, but there's an assignment going to count as a quiz grade. And so I'm going to have you, again, it's another video you'll watch, and you'll write a summary. So you want to make sure you do that. Just look at that assignment, what it is, and make sure you don't miss it, because it's going to count as a quiz grade, and that's meant to help your grade. Throughout the semester, I'll give you 3 or 4, I call outside assignments that count as quiz grades. And if you do them, you're pretty much guaranteed to get an A or B on it. And again, that count as quiz grades to help your quiz average. So those are a few things I had listed that I want to go through outside of the video that I had you watch earlier. Does anybody have any questions or comments for me on anything I just went over or in general? Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Could
I
you,
have oh, sorry. You go first.
could you just
Okay.
go over the quiz again?
You want me to go over the quiz again?
Yeah, I didn't really hear
Okay.
anything you said.
Yeah, so what I said about quizzes is that you'll have a quiz pretty much every week. You'll have a quiz. And I mentioned that the quizzes, I don't give makeup quizzes. Blackboard is set up to drop, it will be set up to drop the 3 lowest quizzes. And pretty much, here's how it'll work, guys. You go through, if you want to get a good grade in this course, you go through, you want to make sure that as you go through, and I can give you, if you have issues or problems studying technical information, please ask me and I'll maybe by phone or we can have a one-on-one. But for the most part, in engineering courses or science or math courses in general, the knowledge is cumulative. Now that's important you understand what I mean. Very, very important you understand what I mean. Here's what I mean. We're going to go in and look at chapter 1. All right, we'll go through those concepts, those ideas and problems in chapter 1, and then we go to chapter 2. Well, chapter 2 is going to be built on chapter 1. Chapter 3 is going to be built on chapter 2, which is built on chapter 1. Chapter 4 is going to be built on chapter 3, which is built on chapter 2, which is built on chapter 1. And you can see where I'm going with this. The point is, if you have a weak foundation, if you don't first master the material in chapter 1, you're going to have an issue when you get to chapter 2. So, guys, somebody needs to mute your mics. I hear music or something playing. So make sure your mics are muted if you're not talking, and then you can unmute them when you want to ask the question. So I'm going into a little bit more detail about what was asked, but what I said about quizzes was I don't give makeups. Blackboard will be set up to drop the 3 lowest quizzes, and it's set up to drop them from day 1. The minute matter of fact, when you get let's say on quiz 1 you get 100, Blackboard is going to show your quiz score as a 0 because that 100 is your lowest score at that time. So it'll automatically be set up to drop the 3 lowest quizzes. I don't give makeups. Instead of getting makeups, I'm going to drop the 3 lowest quiz scores. So the best way to get a good grade on the quizzes, well, quiz 1, pretty much everybody will get an A on that one. It'll be hard to mess up. But all the other quizzes is every week I'll post a topic sheet. And it's kind of an outline of the chapter. I kind of use it for teaching points. The one for this week is already up on Blackboard. You want to make sure you understand everything on that topic sheet. And pretty much when I make a quiz, I look at that topic sheet and I look at the questions that we went over, I look at the concepts we went over, and I make that quiz from those questions and from those concepts. So if you understand everything on the topic sheet, then you'll do pretty well in the quizzes. Okay, does that answer your question? I don't know who that was. Was it Mike? Was that you, Mike? I don't know who asked the question, but.
No, that was me.
Okay. Okay, any more questions in general before we start?
Yeah, I have questions.
Okay.
Yeah, that you mentioned video like including resistance or voltage. Where can I see it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that video, when you go to Blackboard, if you go to your Blackboard, you'll see 3 folders. You'll see one folder for homework. You'll see another folder for labs, and you'll see one folder for week 1. Well, in that lab folder, if you go there, go to that lab folder, and you'll see lab 1. In lab 1, there's a video there, and that video talks about voltage, current, resistance, and your digital multimeter. So the instructions are, since we're not meeting tonight, you can do this lab at home. You're just really watching the video. But what I want you guys to do is to get your meter. You can watch the video anytime you want, but watch it again while you have your meter there. Once you purchase your digital multimeter, then watch the video and kind of follow what the guy does in the video with your meter. You got to learn your piece of equipment. Now, if you already know how to use a digital multimeter, you know, some of you went to Scarlet Oaks or maybe another engineering program, it'll be a piece of cake for you. But see, we have people in this class that some people never ever touched this stuff before, and other people have degrees in it. So I got the whole gamut. So I'll assume you don't know anything, and then we'll start and everybody kind of come up together. So you'll find that video in the lab folder, and you'll see lab 1 there. And did you see it?
Yeah, I only it is in under the folder of course documents.
Mm-hmm. You want the course documents?
Yeah, I don't see a lab folder either.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Okay.
under the course document, I only see 3 folder, like
Okay.
topic 1,
Let
terms
me
to
go look.
know, and then do not memorize. That's all.
Okay, let me go look. Maybe it didn't get copied over.
And then
Let me.
also, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you're right. It didn't get copied over, but hold on a second. I can
Oh,
fix
yeah,
that.
that's okay.
Give me 1 second. I'm glad you told me that because
Yeah.
maybe it didn't get copied into your section. So I'm going to
I,
go fix that because I want you guys to see what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Give me 1 second here. 21.
Man, it's a cool headset there, or Jason.
Wow, I didn't get copied into none of my courses. Well, something happened. I'm glad you told me about that. It would have been not good. Okay. You should be able to see it now. Go to your Blackboard and let me know if you can see that folder or not. You see the lab folder?
Yep,
Yep,
lab
there now.
material and 1 video.
Yeah. So if you go into that folder and you'll see the video. Now I still have to post the lab 1 assignment. And basically what it is just telling you to watch that video. I think I suggest you watch it while you have your digital multimedia sitting right there next to you. But go in, watch the video, and you're just going to write me a summary on kind of what the video was about. Also, you'll have to take a picture with your cell phone or with something of your multimeter. You got to have your multimeter by the time you hand in lab 1. So you'll take a pic and you'll include that picture in your write-up. Okay, so you really can't hand it in until you get your digital multimeter, right? So I'll finish posting the actual assignment. I'll do that after class once we're done, and then you'll have everything. But at least you have the video now, and thank you very much for letting me know it wasn't there. I didn't realize it wasn't there. Any more questions?
So yeah, so for the lab assignment, we have to watch the video and then write a summary of the video and take a photo of multimedia after I have watched it. Yeah, like
That's
that,
correct.
right? Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So any more questions? Let me just read what people are writing, and I want to go ahead and get started. No questions.
I do have a question real quick.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier on, you mentioned the video, I guess, from you that you had sent out regarding like stuff that we would need for the course and everything.
Yeah.
Could you point me in the direction of that?
Yeah, that if you go to your announcements, I think it came up as an announcement. It should have came up on your Blackboard as an announcement. Did you guys see it as an announcement or not?
Is it the YouTube video?
Yeah, it's a video. Hold on, let me just make sure it's on my Blackboard.
I currently only have 2 announcements for this class, at least according to Blackboard.
Yes, and the video is about making using the
To
that
collaborate.
yeah, that's video.
No, this was a video. Okay. Wait a minute. I don't know why that didn't go out now. I know I sent that out earlier today, but let me check something.
I see a video at the end of your second announcement. Is that the video?
I
Oh,
think
that's a
what is-
collaborate.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it. This is one on. Let me just go to maybe I sent it to my day class by accident.
Yeah, I saw 2 announcements and 1 YouTube video for Blackboard collaboration, and then the link for today's session. I only saw this. How about you guys?
Okay. Well, I don't think that got sent out either. I don't know what happened, guys. I have 3 courses, and I don't think for some reason, you didn't get anything I sent out. And it had to be something I did, though. I don't know what I did or didn't do.
So I actually got 2 emails from you on Sunday, a half hour apart. I don't know if that was maybe a mistake.
It might have been. Maybe it was a mistake.
I also got 2 emails too, like the same thing. Like that.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna try to send out. Let me try to send out an announcement. And I don't know. Let's see if this link works. Let me send this to you guys right now. I need to know if this is working for me or not. So I'm gonna send out an announcement. It's gonna be like intro video is what it's gonna say. Intro video. And I'm gonna send it out right now. So see if you get this, and then let me know if you're able to click on the link and bring up a video. So I sent it, but okay, it just went from my Blackboard. Can you see it?
Yeah,
video.
intro to our video.
Now, will it actually click on? Let me know if the video comes up or not. See if that
Yeah,
link.
I will.
Does it work?
Yeah, I can load up and play August 23rd, 2020, intro to our Blackboard.
Okay, that's it. So yeah, so sorry, I don't know what happened, why that didn't go out. I did something wrong, and I apologize for that. But just at some point, watch that. All it does is it takes you through what I already went through, a little bit more detail. It goes through the syllabus a little slower and more detail. It talks about what you need from the course. It's about 30 minutes long, so don't worry about it right now. Just make sure at some point you watch it, and if you have any questions, you can ask me about it. So again, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know that it worked.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Well, guys, let's get started. Make sure you have a topic sheet handy. Again, that's on Blackboard. Go to the week 1 folder, and you'll see some documents there. The one that's most important is the topic sheet. And what that is an outline of the chapter. You are responsible for reading the whole chapter, but what's on the topic sheet is basically what you're going to be tested or quizzed on. And you want to make sure that each of these points that I go over, that everything's crystal clear. Don't let me go on to the next point if you don't understand what I'm going over. I want to make sure that I'm clear and that you understand what's going on. And if you do that, as I said, since all this stuff is cumulative, if you get a strong basic, a foundation, then the rest of the course should I won't say it's a piece of cake, but you'll be able to work your way through it. So make sure you have the topic sheet, and if you have it out, the very first Roman numeral 1, the very first thing that's mentioned there, it talks about mathematics being the language of science and engineering. Mathematics is the language of science and engineering. And I'd like to start off this course talking about that idea that mathematics is a language, because all too often people think, you talk about math and, you kind of have an idea. You know what math is. You've taken algebra. You've taken these different courses in maybe high school, or maybe you went to another college. But from the point of view of a scientist or the point of view of an engineer, we use mathematics to communicate. And so I talk about math as being the language. And I want you to think about this idea of a language. So right now I'm looking into the camera, and right now I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking English, and as long as I form my words clearly, you understand what I'm talking about. And so we can exchange these ideas through words. But my point is that that's not the only way we can communicate. As a matter of fact, we communicate in many different ways. We can communicate on different levels. For example, maybe if you live with your mom or dad or a significant other, you can come into a room and just look at their face, and often you can tell if they're happy or sad, if there's something wrong. There's body language. That's a form of communication. You can communicate through music. You can communicate through art. There's many, many, many ways to communicate, to get ideas from one person to another, not just verbally. And the point here is that scientists and engineers favor the language of mathematics. We like to express ideas mathematically. Does anybody know why? Why do you think the language of choice for scientists and engineers, why is the language of choice mathematics? Anybody have any comments or thoughts? What's special about math?
It's either right or it's not.
Okay. It's either right or it's
Everything is
not.
kind of an equation.
Say again.
Everything is kind of an equation if you break it down.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's universal.
You can be.
I heard it. I don't know. Now I love the feedback, but I heard what I was looking for. One of the things, anyway. Actually, I heard both answers that I was looking for. Now I'm not saying anybody's wrong, but I was somebody said it's universal. That's important. It's important to be universal. Universal is that we can't argue over what the meaning of something. See, we can argue over English. We can argue over history, right? We can argue over history. If you ask most Americans who discovered America, they'll tell you Christopher Columbus. If you ask the Indians that were already here, they were already here. You get my point? So really history and those other subjects, a lot of times you can argue over what's right or wrong, but with math, 2 + 2 is 4, and that 4 has the same meaning everywhere. You can take it, 2 + 2 is 4 on Earth, 2 + 2 is 4 on the moon. You can go anywhere in the universe, and 2 + 2 is always 4. So one reason scientists and engineers express ideas mathematically is because it's universal. It's the same everywhere, no matter where you go, and that's important. The second, I also heard the second reason, I don't know if you said it exactly like this, but somebody says that things can be expressed in numbers, or basically, if we use math to express ideas and concepts, math is precise. Math is precise. Math can be as precise as the instrument that allows us to make measurements. So we can be as precise as our instruments allows us to be. And so math is universal and math is precise. And so we express engineering and scientific ideas mathematically when we can. Now, having said that, what that means for you is an equation is not just an equation anymore. If I put an equation on the board, I don't want you to think, all right, I'm just going to use that to get an answer. No. There was a guy, a philosopher. He's the one that said, I think, therefore I am. You might have heard a philosopher by the name of Rene Descartes. I think, therefore I am. He also said that math is the language God gave us to allow us to communicate with nature. Math is the language God gave us to allow us to communicate with nature. In other words, he understood that we live in a mathematical universe. And if I want to understand what's going on in the universe, the way the universe speaks to us is through mathematics. And so when you see an equation, when I write an equation on the board throughout the semester, you want to ask yourself this question: what is this equation saying? What is this equation trying to tell me? And we'll look at the relationships between variables of equations, and it turns out that often the relationship between those variables or quantities is more important than the answer itself. And you'll see what I mean here in a couple days when we get into the actual calculations. And so math is the language we'll use in this class. So you want to make sure you understand, given an equation, ask yourself this question: what is that equation trying to tell me? And we'll delve into that as we go through the course. Now, just following the topic sheet, the next thing here is units of measurements. And on the topic sheet, it refers you to, well, Roman numeral 2A says fundamental and derived units, and it says see tables 1.1 and 1.2. And then electrical and magnetic quantities, see tables 1.3 and 1.4. I'm not going to talk about this. I want you to go, when you get your book, go back and just observe, just kind of go through and look at tables 1.1 through 1.4. Just kind of, as you do your reading, don't memorize anything on those tables. Just kind of look at it. Matter of fact, somebody mentioned there's a document on Blackboard that says it tells you to understand, not memorize. So have a look at that document when you can. In this course, well, there's some things you're going to have to memorize. For example, when you do when you learn multiplication, you had to learn your multiplication facts, and the only way to do that is to memorize it, right? So some things you got to memorize. But what I'm seeking in this class is understanding. You can't memorize your way through this class. You can't memorize your way through a degree here in electrical engineering technology or one of the electrical programs. So I really want you to understand, and that's with my background in physics, that's what I seek to do. I want you to leave here understanding exactly what we're talking about. You'll be surprised at how often people go through some kind of program and they don't even know what they're talking about. So we'll always start a new concept defining what it is that we're talking about from a first principles point of view or from a physics point of view. And so go through and look at those tables in the book. Don't try to memorize anything. Table 1.3 and 1.4 will be the most important for you. And the terms in those tables, again, we'll go through those as we go through the semester. So you don't have to try to memorize. Just become familiar with them. I'm not going to quiz you or ask you anything out of those tables. You'll pick that up as we go through the course. So I'm going to move on to Roman numeral 3. And in Roman numeral 3 is when we kind of get into numbers. And so I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about ways to express numbers in science and engineering. And some of you, or probably most of you, if you had a science course, physics, chemistry, you've probably already done this. So just consider this a review. And then the second part of this, a lot of students are not familiar with. So the first part is scientific notation. How do you express numbers in scientific notation? So I want to talk about that. And then the second part is engineering notation, which is kind of a subset of scientific notation. I want to talk about how you do that. And that probably is the most important thing we're going to talk about tonight. You want to make sure that tonight you're able to express numbers in scientific notation and express numbers in engineering notation. And then there'll be a table of metric prefixes that you use with engineering notation. You want to make sure that you're able to do that. So I'll give examples, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But as I go through these examples, you want to make sure that everything is crystal clear. Okay? So let's talk about scientific notation, what it is and why we use it. So what is scientific notation? Well, scientific notation is a convenient way to express numbers. And typically, the way you do it is you'll have a number followed by a decimal point. You may or may not have numbers on the right side of the decimal point. Then it'll be times 10 to some power. This n represents an exponent. So times 10 raised to some power. And the way you do it is the number here on the left cannot be a 0. It must be between 1 and 9 inclusive. So I cannot have a leading 0. It's got to be between 1 and 9 inclusive. And what I mean is it can be the digit 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9, but it cannot be a 0. You may or may not have another number here on the right, but the other part that's important here is this. This is the exponent or power. And what that tells you is it tells you how many times you move the decimal. So you're going to keep count as you move the decimal. If I have a number larger than 1, I'll the decimal to the left to get it into this format. If I have a number between 0 and 1, I'll move the decimal to the right to get it into this format. And once it's in this format, now count how many times I had to move the decimal to get it into this format, and then that's the number I'll put here. And then I'll check to see if that exponent or power is positive or negative. if the number that I started with, the original number I started with, if it's bigger than 1, then my exponent will be positive. If it's between 0 and 1, my exponent will be negative. So I said a whole lot, but it's easier to see it done. So let's start with this. Let's start with a number, let's say 93 million. Now I'm going to put a comma in here because this is the way that you've been taught to write a large number like this with commas. But in science, often what we do is we don't put these commas in here. Now, I'll do it sometimes. I'll slip up and do it. But often, if I want to write 93 million, they'll put spaces in here. If you wonder why, well, in some cultures, they use commas like we use a decimal point. And so what I'm saying is, in some cultures, if they wrote, like, say, 13.45, in some cultures, they'll write 13,45. I actually have some of my African students that actually write it this way. And so to be clear, what often in science and engineering, instead of putting commas in there, they'll put spaces, and that means the same thing no matter which culture you're from. So here's 93 million. And I want to write that in scientific notation. I want to put it into this form right here. So I want to write this number with a 1 digit to the left of the decimal, and that digit cannot be a 0. It's got to be between 1 and 9 inclusive. And as I move this over, I'm going to keep count, and that's what I'm going to write up here for the power. I'm going to count how many times I have to move the decimal to put it into this form, and that's what I'll write here. And then I'll write whether that number is negative or positive. So let's do that with this number. So I'm going to start. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So by moving 7 places, then I can write this number as 9.3 times 10. I had to move it 7 times to get into that form. But I'm not done yet. I got to check one more thing. I got to check to see if this number, that exponent, is that exponent negative or is it positive? If the original number I start with is bigger than 1, then that exponent will be positive. If the original number I start with is between 0 and 1, then that exponent will be negative. And since 93 million is bigger than 1, then I'm going to leave this as positive, and my number is in scientific notation. Questions over putting this in scientific notation? All right, well, what if I had this? What if I had another number? What if I had something like 0.00725? And I want to put that in scientific notation. Well, it's exactly the same thing. The only difference is, instead of coming over here from the right, now my decimal point's on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the decimal over. I got to move it over 1, 2. I can't stop right there because remember, I cannot have a leading 0. That number on the left of the decimal has to be between 1 and 9. I can't have a 0. So I actually got to go one more. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to write this as 7.25 times 10 to the, and I have to move it 1, 2, 3 times, so it's 10 to the third. And now it's in scientific notation, but I'm not done yet. I gotta always check to see if that exponent of power, is that exponent positive or is it negative? And so if the original number I started with is greater than 1, then as in this example, I'm going to write it as a positive number. If it's between 0 and 1, this number here is between 0 and 1, and then the exponent is going to be negative. And so again, most students taking this course, you've already done this stuff before in some other class, maybe your math class. But every once in a while, I'll get somebody, this is the first time they've seen it. I assume we know absolutely nothing when we start this course, so if you've seen this before, consider it a review. If you haven't, you'll see it's pretty easy to do. But just to prove that to yourself, I have some example problems. If you have the topic sheet, take it out, and I want you to look at problem number 1 on the topic sheet under practice problems, and problem number 2, and I want you to work those problems. Now, if you don't have the topic sheet handy for some reason, I'll put it on the board. You can just copy it off the board, but it's going to help if you have this out as we go through these different weeks. It helps if you have the topic sheet out because I always have practice problems on the topic sheet. So I'll write the problems on the board. While I'm doing that, I want you guys to go ahead, put those numbers into scientific notation. And then part two, question two, they give you numbers already in scientific notation. They want you to take them out of scientific notation. We'll start with number one first. So here we go. I can't even see that other one. I have to get my glasses. I think it's 10 zeros. All right, so take out a sheet of paper and go ahead and work these out. And then we'll go through it and make sure everybody understands it. And then we'll move on. Give you just a couple more minutes to do this. About one more minute, and then we'll go through the problems and make sure we all got the same answers. One more minute. right. What about the first one? Anybody got an answer for me? A.
I got
5.6.
5.64 times 10 to the fourth power.
That's correct. So he started here, over 1, 2, 3, 4. So he said he got 5.6 times 10, moved it 4 places. Because this number is bigger than 1, he left that as positive. What about the next one, B?
1.2 times 10 power 6.
That's exactly right. She said she got 1.2. Move it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Was times 10 to the 6th power. And again, I write that as positive because the original number is bigger than 1. What about C?
5 times 10 to the negative 2.
Exactly. Negative 2 because we move it over 1, 2. And since that number is between 0 and 1, then that exponent is negative. And what about D? 4 point what?
4.72 times 10 to the negative 3.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if I counted right. I think I counted 10 zeros on here. If it's 10 zeros, then what would that one be?
5.6 times 10 to the negative 11th.
Exactly right. And this one right here is kind of silly, right? That's trivial. It's just 1.3, but if you want to put it in that form, you write 1.3, and you don't have to move the decimal at all, so you write it like that. But I would never really ask that question. That's kind of silly. So, was everybody able to do this? Anybody have any confusion? Is it clear how to take a number and put it into scientific notation? Any questions? Okay, well, I tell you what. If you go to the next part, number 2, they want you to do the opposite. They want you to take numbers that are in scientific notation and write them as decimal. So there's 4 problems to do there. Go ahead and do those real quick. I'll put them on the board in case you don't have them. So they gave you these 4 problems, and they want you to write these as decimal numbers. And pretty much, if you can put numbers into scientific notation, then I don't think you'll have any problem taking them out of scientific notation. Just do the opposite. So the way I like to do it is, like this one, I know I'm going to move the decimal. I got to move it over to the right. I got to move it 7 times. And 2 of the 7 is already taken up with D. So I kind of just write the number down. And I know I need 7, so I'm going to need 5. I need 5 zeros here. And then I can write it. If you want to put your commas in here. So I move this over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just add the zeros and maybe put the commas in there instead of the spaces so you can see what the answer is quickly. So however you do it, it's okay. Students usually don't have any problem doing this. Here you know you got to move the decimal to the left. There's already 1 place to the left, so you just got to add 7 zeros. and then 375. So my decimal's going to go here. And when you have a decimal out front, in front of a number, it's okay to write it like this, but it's better if you always put that 0 on the left side of the decimal point. It just makes the decimal point stand out a little bit better. So, I mean, I'm not going to mark it wrong if you do that, but try to get in the habit of putting that 0 there. That makes that decimal point stand out a little bit better. And then the same here. Got to move it over twice. One of the places is already there with the 5, so I'll add 1 0. Put the decimal here, and I'll stick that 0 just for emphasis here. And then here I got to move it over to the right 4 places, but 2 of the places is taken by the 6 and the 7. So I'll have to add 2 more zeros to get the 4, and then I get that. So I don't think anybody will have any issue with that. If you can put numbers in the scientific notation, just kind of think backwards, and you can take them out of scientific notation. Okay? Any questions or comments over scientific notation? I know for most of you that probably was just a review, but this is the first time you've seen this. Does anybody have any questions over anything that we talked about so far?
I have one question. I'm used to writing it with, like, for A on the first one, I might write 5.6 E4.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up. So here's what he's saying, and that's a good point. I should have thought of that myself. So often, if you have an engineering calculator, they'll use this capital E to represent this part right here. So instead of writing it like that, they'll have 2.66. They'll put a capital E here, and then now instead of writing the 7 as a small number, a subscript, they'll just put a 7 there. So you may have seen that before. That's the meaning of it. Or if I do, let's say I did this one, they would write this as 5.51, and they'll have an E, and then they'll have a -2 there. So yeah, if you do it that way, I'm fine with that. You really want to get familiar with all the different ways things will be represented. And this is a really, really common way of doing it. So I don't know who said that, but thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else? Any other thing you want to add or talk about? This is not that bad. And I think the homework, that homework 1, you're doing some of this stuff. So it should be pretty simple. Now, take out a sheet of paper. Make sure you're taking notes, because this next part, I know I told you I don't want you to memorize stuff. I want you to understand things, concepts, and ideas. But here's one thing you got to memorize. Well, it's 2 things in this class you got to memorize. Thing number 1, the table I'm about to give you. And thing number 2 is something called the resistor color code that we'll talk about in the lab next week. Those are the only 2 things you got to memorize in this class. Okay, so I'm going to put a table on the board. It's called the table of metric prefixes. Table of metric prefixes. Let me put it on the board. And I want you to copy it in your notes and make sure you know everything in this table. On quiz 2, not quiz 1, quiz 2, I'm going to give you this table. I'm going to black some things out and move some things around, and you got to be able to write it out. So make sure you understand the table and the words and the numbers that go along with the words. So
Could you repeat, like, what tables do you mean?
Okay, I'll write it down here. Let me write it down, then I'll give you the title for it. It'll be a little easier for me to just write it. So what you'll have is you'll have the prefix. And the prefixes are mega, kilo, milli, micro, nano, and pico. Now, can you guys see that low in the camera? Is it showing up down here? Okay. So these are the prefixes you got to know. You got to know these. Now, when you read your book, he has other ones. Giga. I mean, he has other ones in there. Deci or These are the ones for this class I want you to know. I don't care about the other ones, okay? These are the ones for this class. So it's the prefix, and then there's the power. I'm going to write power, but what I mean is power of 10. Each one of these prefixes is associated with a power of 10. So you got to know that mega means 10 to the 6. And kilo, 10 to the 3rd. Milli, 10 to the minus 3rd. Micro, 10 to the minus 6. Nano, 10 to the minus 9. And pico, 10 to the minus 12. So these are the power of 10. Each one of the prefixes has an associated power of 10. Mega, 10 to the 6. Kilo, 10 to the 3rd. Milli, 10 to the minus 3rd. Micro, minus 6. Nano, minus 9. And pico, minus 12. Now, you might recognize this. This right here, 10 to the 6 is a 1 with 6 zeros. So that's 1 million. 10 to the 3rd is a 1 with the power gives you the number of zeros to add to the 1. So it's 3 zeros. That's 1,000. Whereas this one, since I know that 10 to the minus 3rd is 1 over 10 to the 3rd, right? In math, they told you that if you had a raised to a negative power, you can write that as 1 over a to the n. Or if I have a to a positive power, I can write that as 1 over a to the minus n. So I'm dealing with this. So if I have, for this one, if I have 10 to the minus 3rd, then math says I can write that as 1 over 10 to the 3rd. But since 10 to the 3rd is 1,000, that's 1 over 1,000. So this right here is 1/1,000. 1/1,000 with the th after it. Okay? So you got to know the prefix, you got to know the power, and there's just one more thing you got to know for this table. For each power, there's an associated symbol. Let me give you the symbols. Symbols. For mega, it's a capital M. Kilo is a lowercase k. Milli is a lowercase m. Now let me stop for a second. I want you to see something. Many times when students write, they'll make the big M like this, and they'll make a little m exactly like that, but smaller. If you do that, it's wrong. This is important. If you make a big M, you got to make it exactly like I have here. You got to make it with the points on it. To me, this is not a big M. That's just a large little m. If you mean capital M, you gotta write it with these points on it. If you mean little m, you gotta write it smooth like that. Now, no, I'm not being silly. This actually has meaning. And let's say that maybe you're a biomedical student and you're hooking up some kind of machine and you're dealing with volts and you meant this, but you thought they meant that. You just killed your patient. This has meaning. And so you want to be very specific the way you draw this so that the meaning is given to whatever you're doing. And you'll see what I'm saying here in just a second. Let me finish my list. Micro. Now, micro, a lot of times students will write for micro a U. If you want to do that, that's okay. But the symbol actually looks like this. It's this. That's micro. And that's a Greek letter mu, M-U, the Greek letter mu in the Greek alphabet. So if you want to write it as a U, that's okay. But the actual way of writing it, you have this tail in the front, tail in the back. So either way, I'm going to write it like this in the table. It's mu, like that. And then nano is just a lowercase n. And again, a lowercase n is like this, and the uppercase n is like that. So by doing a little one of those, it's not a lowercase m if you make it small. The only way it's a lowercase n, you got to make it smooth like that. And then the pico is a lowercase p. So mega, capital M, kilo, lowercase k, milli, lowercase m, mu uses this Greek letter, looks like a U, lowercase u, nano, lowercase n, and pico, lowercase p. This is called the table of metric prefixes. So on quiz 1, the first question on quiz 1, I'm going to give you this table. I'm going to erase some of these. You know, like I might erase this, erase that, and that, and you got to fill in the table and get everything right. If you just miss one thing, the whole question's wrong. So you want to make sure you understand this table. So write that down, and then I want to show you engineering notation. Now let me pause for a minute because I need more room on my board, so I want to redo this table over to the left. So give me a second and make sure you have it written down. And I'm sure this is in your book, so if you don't get it, this should all be in your book. I'm just going to move this over here. I got these wrong. All right, and then the symbol. All right, table of metric prefixes. Now, I want to move on now to talk to you about another kind of way of representing numbers. This is called engineering notation. And think of engineering notation as kind of a subset of scientific notation. So let me show you what that looks like. Engineering notation. All right. In engineering notation, like scientific notation, you can have you have a decimal point and one number to the left of the decimal point times 10 to some power. But unlike scientific notation, you can also have 2 places to the left of the decimal point or 3 places to the left of the decimal point. So here's what I'm saying. I can write it like this, or I might have 2 places to the left times 10 to some power, or I might have 3 places to the left times 10 to some power. So unlike scientific notation, I can have 1 place to the left, like scientific notation, but unlike scientific notation, I can have 2 places to the left of the decimal or 3 places to the left of the decimal. The second thing is the power, the exponent, has to be a multiple of 3. So I'm not allowed, if I'm in engineering notation, I can't have like 10 to the 2nd power or 10 to the negative 7th power. It's got to be a multiple of 3. Now, what determines whether I have 1 place to the left, 2 places to the left, or 3 places to the left? I'm going to move that decimal back and forth until I get this power as a multiple of 3. And then I can stop. Let me show you what I'm saying. It's a little easier if I show you. And forgive me, I'm going to get the chair just so I can sit here. Remember the first number? I think it was 93 million. We had 93 million. 93 million. And I said, put it in scientific notation. He said, all right, that's easy. What I do is I count the number of places I move the decimal. I'm going to stop when I have 1 place to the left of the decimal. So you said I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you wrote that as 9.3 times 10 to the 7th power. And that's kind of like this first one, isn't it? I got one place to the left of the decimal, one place to the left of the decimal. But that's not correct for engineering notation. I got one place to the left of the decimal. That's okay. But the problem is this power here has to be a multiple of 3. 7 is not a multiple of 3. The only way to get this as a multiple of 3 is, instead of moving it over 7 places, if I back it up 1, then I can write this as 93 times 10 to the what? What would I write here?
6.
6. Now it fits this form. Now it fits this form. You see it? So you're doing two things with engineering notation that's different from scientific notation. You're moving it over till I have one place to the left, 2 places to the left, or 3 places to the left of the decimal. And what determines that is you got to negotiate that decimal and this number. So I got a 3 here, and then one of these forms over here on the left of the decimal. Does that make sense? Now,
Yes.
let me talk about one more thing, and then I want to do some exercises here with this engineering notation. I want to talk about quantity. Quantity. In science, when we express a physical quantity, what is a physical quantity? You need 2 pieces of information to express a physical quantity. You got to have a magnitude and you got to have a unit. You got to have a magnitude or size, a number, and a unit. All physical quantities, in physics, all physical quantities is expressed as a number and a unit, or a magnitude or size and a unit. If you have a physical quantity and you don't give the unit, it's meaningless. Like the number 3 here is not a physical quantity, that's just a number. If I say 3 meters, now that's a quantity. If I have 15, that doesn't mean anything. If I have 15 volts, now we're talking about physical quantity. So to express any physical quantity in science, you got to have 2 pieces of information. You got to have a size, or magnitude, or number, whatever you want to call it, and you got to have a unit. Okay? Now, in this class, in the engineering class, electrical engineering, there's 3 units that's going to be important for us. And we'll talk about what they mean and how we get to that, but I just want to give you the units, right? The first unit that's important in this class is a physical quantity called voltage. Don't worry about what it is now, and we'll get to that next week. There's a physical quantity called voltage. I want to show you the unit for that quantity. So voltage that's the quantity. The unit is a capital V. Now, most students, whether you're engineering or not, have heard of voltage because you deal with batteries. You probably know your car battery is 12 volts. You probably know if you go get one of those little AA batteries, which that's really not a battery, that's a cell, but we'll get to that later. That cell was 1.5 volts. You might know that the square transistor battery is 9 volts. So most people are familiar with the term voltage, right? But the symbol, capital V, so I'll write from our car battery, 12, that's the magnitude, and the unit would be capital V, that's the unit. So that's a quantity now. A number in the unit, 12 volts. So this is one term I want you to be familiar with, and the unit for that term is a capital V. Now, by the way, so I'm talking about units. If a unit is a lowercase letter, well, let me say it another way. If a unit is an uppercase letter, that means that unit is named after a person. If the unit is expressed using an uppercase letter, it's named after a person. So what I'm saying is, since voltage uses a capital V, I think the guy's name was Volta. Don't quote me on that. I think it was a French dude named Volta, a physicist, I think. But he got a unit named after him. Another one is Fahrenheit, degrees Fahrenheit. That's a scientist. So when you express temperature, it might be 32 degrees, capital F, because that's named after a person. But if you have something that's 15 meters long, you write that as a lowercase m for meters. There's no Mr. or Mrs. Meter living. The meter is not named after anybody, so we write that as a lowercase. It's not important, but I thought I would mention it. So one important physical quantity for this class is voltage. The next important physical quantity is called current. Again, don't worry about what it is right now. Just know the term and the unit. So current the unit for current is called an ampere or amp. We use a capital A. This represents amps. We use a capital A to represent current. So when you talk about electricity, you're not really talking about voltage. Here's what you mean. When you say electricity or juice, you're talking about current, electrical current. And you might have seen, maybe you got a breaker or a fuse box in your basement, and maybe you have a 15 amp breaker or 15 amp fuse. Well, the ampere is a unit for current. Current is how much electricity flows. And we'll get to that next week, but just know the physical quantity, the number, unit, the unit would be an ampere, capital A. Again, capital A because it's named after somebody. And then the third physical quantity that's important for this class is called ohms, an ohm, spelled O-H-M. Now this is kind of different, a different unit because ohms, you can write it like, I can say I got something that's 15 ohms, I can write it out like that. But the symbol they use is like a horseshoe. It's actually the Greek letter omega. That's an uppercase Greek letter omega. I think the lowercase is like this and the uppercase is like that. So you can either write 15 ohms or you can write it like the magnitude and then the unit will be, it looks like a horseshoe, 15 ohms. So we got three fundamental quantities in this class: voltage, current, resistance. The symbol or unit for the unit for voltage is a capital V. The unit for current is a capital A. And the unit for resistance is a capital, is the omega. So those are some quantities I want you to know. Okay? Any questions over, we talked about the table metric prefixes. We talked about how to get a number in the engineering notation. Any questions so far? Okay, well, it turns out that we use the engineering notation concept and the table of metric prefixes. We use those together to write those three quantities: voltage, current, resistance. There's special ways that electrical engineers write those quantities. I want to show you how to do that. And once I show you how to do it, I want you to practice how to do it. Okay? So let's go back to the original number that I started with at the beginning of class. It was 93 million. So let's say I got 93 million. So my number is 93 million. But now I don't want just a number, I want a quantity. So remember, a quantity is I got to have a number and a unit. So I'm saying 93 million what? Say I have 93 million volts. If I put a capital V here, now that's not just a number anymore, it's a physical quantity expressed by a number and a unit. What I want to do is I want to write that number, I want to write this in engineering notation. So take out a sheet of paper and I want you to write this in engineering notation. I'll give you a second to do it. 93 million volts is what? What does that look like in engineering notation?
93 times 10 to the 6.
That's right. So we got
volt. Yeah.
Let me put it up here. So we got 93 point, well, we don't have to do that. We got 93 times 10 to the, we have to move it over 6 places. So there's my magnitude, and here's my unit, volts. Right?
So,
Go ahead.
so do we ever have to put a decimal point? So say we got 73 million. Do we do 73.0 or we don't have to ever put a point, the decimal point?
I'm smiling because, see, you get into something called significant digits. I'm trying to avoid that.
Oh,
For now, if it's for now, we'll say that these are the same. We'll say that 93.0 times 10 to the 6. We'll say that these two are the same. In reality, they're not the same. You're trying to give the reader this. It's the same number, but you're trying to say something about the accuracy here. I don't want to get into significant digits right now.
okay.
So you can write it either way right now. For right now, yeah, you can write it like this or like this. That doesn't matter. Now, here's what's important, guys. Everybody make sure you're paying attention, because this is what you got to be able to do. On the quiz, I'm going to ask you to do this, and people always mess it up. I don't want you to mess it up. What you're going to do now is, once you put this is engineering notation. Once you put this in engineering notation, then what I want you to do is look at this part right here. Figure out what symbol goes along with that power of 10. Well, 10 to the 6 is, yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're going to do is write this as 93. You'll replace this with the symbol, the associated symbol. For 10 to the 6 is a capital M. And then you'll use your unit here, volts. So instead of writing this as 93 million volts, or instead of writing it as 93 times 10 to the 6 volts, a real electrical engineer is going to write it like this, 93 megavolts. You see it? This is the way we express the quantities of voltage, current, and resistance in electrical engineering. We use this form right here. This is not engineering notation. This is engineering notation. So next week on the quiz, here's 2 things I'm going to do. Thing number 1, I'm going to give you this table. I'm going to erase some of these quantities and mix the rows up. I'm going to say, all right, now go fill in that table. You got to get them all right. If you miss just one, the whole question's wrong. So you got to know this table. Then I'm going to ask you to take a number, maybe 93 million volts. I want you to write that number in engineering notation. That's the first part. Then the second part, I want you to take the engineering notation and replace the power of 10 with the correct symbol. What students do is they jump from 93 million right to this. This is not engineering notation. This is engineering notation. You got to be able to go from 93 million engineering notation, and then from engineering notation to this. That's what I want you to do for question 2 on the quiz. Okay? Now, go back to the topic sheet and read problem number 3. There's one more practice problem, number 3. It says convert problems for problem number 1, convert all of those values to engineering notation. This is exactly like the quiz is going to be. For problem number 1, A through E, they don't want you to do F, just A through E. They want you to take each one of those numbers and convert them to engineering notation. And then once you get them in once you get them like this in engineering notation, they want you to replace the power of 10 with the correct metric prefix. Now, to be able to do this, we can't just deal with numbers like 93 million. We got to deal with quantities. So it says here, assume the units of measure are volts. So for problem number 1, instead of just 56,000, it's 56,000 volts. Or instead of 1,200,000, it's 1,200,000 volts. So when you write this down, the first thing you do is change all those to physical quantities by putting the V after it for volts. And then I want you to write it in engineering notation and then write it with the correct metric prefix. So, well, get your paper out and go ahead and work on that. I'll give you a few minutes to do it. And in case you don't have the paper handy, I'll put those numbers on the board for you. I think I can fit everything here. So the first one was volts. We're changing all these to volts. All right, so we're changing all those to volts. And now you're gonna write this in engineering notation, and then from engineering notation, replace with the correct power of 10, and then we'll see what you got. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to do it. And then we'll talk about it. Okay, let's take a look at these 5 problems and see what we got here. So, what would this look like in engineering notation?
56 to
56.
the 10th power. I mean, the third power. My bad.
That's correct. So, make
Both.
sure on the quiz you show the magnitude and the unit to express the quantity, and then they want you to replace this power of 10. So how would I write that? What would it look like?
56 kilovolts.
All right. So you might have heard of a kV. When an engineer talks about a kV, he or she means kilovolt. kV. Lowercase k, uppercase v. What about this next one? Engineering notation?
1.2 times 10 to the 6th volts.
Yep. Make sure on the quiz, if you forget the v, it's wrong. Write the magnitude and the unit. And if you do your replacement here, this is 1.2 what?
Megavolts.
Megavolts is correct. Okay.
I had a question about that one.
What is that?
So I had a question about the 1.2 million one.
Sure. Hey, who is that talking? Is that
Abdul.
Abdul? Move your camera down. I can't see your face. I'm looking at some flowers. Okay. All right. All right. You're trying to hide from it. What's your question, Abdul?
As I was doing it, I stopped at 12 because I remember you telling me that about the decimal point. So I was kind of stuck. Instead of 6, I had it at 5.
Yeah. Okay. So you moved it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You
Yeah.
remember right?
Yup.
But remember that power of 10 can't be a 5. It's got to be a multiple of 3. So you can't really stop right there because that will give you a 5. You got to move it over. It's got to be a multiple of 3. That power can't be a 5 or 4. It's got to be a multiple of 3. It can be a 3. It can be a 9, a 6. So 5 won't work.
Mm-hmm.
So for engineering notation, and again,
Yeah.
if
50.
so engineering notation, I can have it like this.
Yeah.
I can have it like this. Or I can have it like this. And this number here has got to be a multiple of 3. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this part's okay, but then this will be a 5. It's not allowed to be a 5. It's got to be one of these. A 6, a 3, a minus. It's got to be one of those. The only way to get that to be one of those is they got to move it over one more place and make it a 6. Can't stop at 12. Got to move it over one more and make it a 6 so it matches with this.
So then could you have done 1200 times 10 to the 3rd?
Yeah, so I could do 1, 2, 3. So I could do 1200 times 10 to the 3rd. I could stop there, but then that's not one of these forms. Because I'm not allowed to have 4. I got to have either 1, 2, or 3 spaces. This I have 4 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to move the decimal around. 2 things have to happen at the same time. You can have 1 place to the left, 2 places to the left, or 3 places to the left, and at the same time, that exponent's got to be a power of a multiple of 3. So both of those have to be true at the same time, and then you'll end up with an easy way to replace that power of 10 with one of these symbols. So Abdul, do you see why I didn't stop right here?
Yeah, no, I see.
Okay. Any other questions? You guys asked really good questions. I like it. What about this one? Anybody get that one?
I got 50 times 10 to the negative 3rd volts.
Okay. Beautiful. So here's what happened on this one. You move it over 1, 2. You can't write 5 times 10 to the 2nd. That's okay, because I can have 1 place to the left, but I'm not allowed to have a 2 here. I got to have a 3. So I got to move it over 1. I got to add a 0, and I can move it over. If I add a 0, 1, 2, And then I add that 0 to make it times 10 to the minus third volts. And then what do I replace this with?
Or 50 millivolts.
Millivolts. Now you see what I said earlier? Remember the example I gave you earlier? I said that if you were a biomedical technician and you meant this, but by mistake you wrote this. You see what you just did? You meant to apply 50 millivolts to a person's brain. Now remember, a milli is 1/, that's 1/1000. You take a volt and divide it into 1,000 pieces. You meant to apply that tiny voltage, but because you wrote this the wrong way, you apply 50 million volts, you just killed your patient. That's why it's so important that you make a capital M look like a capital M and a lowercase m look like a lowercase m. So you get information from that that's important. What about this next one?
4.72 times 10 to the power minus 3.
That's correct.
So
All right.
I would like to make sure that for the engineering notation, they only accept 3 space before the point, like that.
Yeah, you have one place on the left of the point.
Yeah, and then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would this mean?
Yeah, I mean like for the number B, we can write 12,000 multiplying 10 power 3 volt is also accept to engineering notation.
Yeah. I don't know if I understand you correctly. This is your engineering notation. Is that what you said?
No, she was asking about the example I gave about 12,000, but he explained that you can't do that because it has to be 1, 2, or 3.
Oh yeah, I would like to make sure.
Before the decimal.
I missed those concepts. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, since she mentioned you missed something.
Yeah.
I'm recording all these lectures, so if you ever miss a lecture or you want to watch something over, once we get done with class and I hit the exit button, it takes Collaborate about an hour. It'll process the video, and then it'll be available to you on Blackboard. So you can always go back. Try not to miss a class. Try not to miss a class. But if you ever miss or you want to repeat something, you can always go back to your Blackboard. You can watch it over. In addition to that, I will post all of our class videos on YouTube. So you'll have you can go to Blackboard or you can go to YouTube and you can watch any of these videos.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All right. So back to this. So this will be what? 4.72 what?
Millivolts.
Millivolts. And then anybody get this one?
I got. Go ahead.
56 times 10 to the negative 12th volts, or 56 picovolts.
All right. I think that's right. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
6 picovolts, right? Well, good. I feel pretty good about the quiz. I think you guys, I think you'll do okay on it. So, any questions over anything so far? Because I got 2 more topics, and then I want to just kind of briefly go over the objectives for this week to make sure you're clear on them. And then that's all I have for tonight. Any more questions over anything I've talked about so far? Okay, well, the next thing I want to talk about, systems of units. So if you're taking notes, systems of units. So let me write that down. All right, so in science and engineering, let me start by saying there's many systems of units, but in science and engineering, typically we use one of 2 systems. We use an English system or we use the metric system. So when I talk about remember, to express a physical quantity, I gotta have a number, a quantity, consists of a number or magnitude and a unit. So for this part, the unit part, there's two systems of units that we use. Either this is going to be an English unit or it's going to be a metric unit. Now, in the old days, we used a lot of English units. Some examples of those would be like a foot, a Fahrenheit, inches. Those are all English units. Over here, scientists now tend to use the metric system. So we use metric units. So you're probably familiar with the meter or the gram, kilo. Those are metric units. So I want to talk about these systems of units. Now, for the physical quantities, there's a whole bunch of physical quantities that I can list. But I'm just going to list three. I'm going to list L for length. I'll use M for mass, and I'll use T for time. Now, does everybody know what we mean by length? What is length? What's length? What do I mean by that?
To measure the thing.
How would you explain length?
Yeah.
The distance between 2 points.
Or how would you get the length of something?
Meter. You muted. We can hear much.
If I say how tall are you, how would you figure that out? What would you do?
You mentioned with a meter or
I could do this, right? I could come over here and do this with my hand, put the marker there.
Yeah.
All right. So how would I get my height? Well, I would get some kind of device, some kind of
ruler.
I got to figure out the distance between 2 points, don't I?
Yeah.
So from the ground to here, that would be so many feet, inches, meters, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think we kind of all know what we mean by length. What about mass? What is mass? What is that?
The weight of
the thing.
Mass? Weight of the thing.
Is mass and weight, are these the same thing?
Yeah.
No.
Are these the same? Are they equal to each other?
No.
Mass.
What is weight?
Weight.
It's your mass times
How would you get
gravity.
your weight? What would you do? How would you measure your weight? I'm looking at the computer. I should look at it. How would you measure your weight? Tell me how you measure weight. What would you do?
Get on a scale.
Pound scale?
Yeah,
Get on a
scale.
You guys
Scale.
may be thinking, can you hear me? Your mic is muted. Oh, that's why you're not answering. Hold on a minute.
I can hear your mic.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yeah,
can
I
hear
can
you.
hear
Can
you.
you hear us?
I can't. Yeah, I tell you what happened. I'm using this projector system, and after so much time, it shuts down automatically, and I can't hear anymore. So I just rebooted it. You see it's coming on here. Let me get rid of it. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Give me a second to. I was wondering why you weren't answering. I was like, what's that? So give me a minute to let this boot up. It's acting really slow tonight. Okay. Let me mute that. All right. So what's the difference between weight and mass? Or is there a difference? Can you guys hear me now?
Your weight is mass times gravity.
Okay, so somebody said that from a physics, weight is your mass, and for gravity, they use a little g to represent 9.8. a constant 9.8. But what's the difference between weight and mass? If you knew this, you probably know the difference between weight and mass. What's the difference? You can't hear me again? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, we can
I
hear
can
you,
hear
but
you. I'm just not really sure of the answer.
What'd you say?
That I can hear you. I'm just not really sure of the answer actually.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me tell you what the answer is. I figured whoever gave this equation probably knew the answer, but so the weight has to do with the pull of gravity. Something weighs more if gravity pulls on it more. So, for example, let's say I got a bowling ball in this hand and a golf ball in this hand. Of course, the bowling ball has more weight. And what I mean by that is the force of gravity is pulling down more on the bowling ball than it is on the golf ball. So the bowling ball feels heavier. But since weight has to do with the pull of gravity, the pull of gravity is different in different places. Like if I'm on Earth, the pull of gravity is one thing. If I go on the moon pulls on things a lot less. So the pull of gravity on the moon is less. So if I have a bowling ball that's 15 pounds on the Earth, when I go to the moon, it might only weigh 3 pounds because the moon doesn't pull down as hard. So weight depends on where you are in the universe. If you go all the way to outer space around no other planets, you're weightless. The astronauts float. If they got on the scale, their weight would be 0. So weight has to do with the gravitational pull of some celestial body like the moon or Earth or Mars. How hard is that planet pulling you through gravity? Mass is the amount of stuff in a given amount of space. So if I could count up every atom in my body and I counted those atoms up, that's the mass. Mass is the amount of matter. How many atoms does it take to make up? So if I take that same bowling ball, even though it might weigh 15 pounds on Earth, or it might weigh 3 pounds on the moon, the number of atoms in that bowling ball is the same in all places. It's constant. So scientists, rather than use weight, they use mass because mass is the same. Remember, we like for things to be universal. So mass is the same everywhere in the universe, whereas weight, it depends on where you are. That varies. And so in time, well, I'm not going to define time. Time is a measure of motion. Anyway, I'm saying that to say there's a lot of quantities we can talk about. I'm just going to talk about these 3. So in this table here, I'm making the table. In this table, I got the English system, I got the metric system, and what I want to do here is I want to look at length, I want to look at mass, and I want to look at time in each of these systems. Now, the metric system actually has 2 subsystems. So I can't really write it like this. I got to do this. The metric system has 2 subsystems. So I'm going to write this up higher. Metric. And it actually has a subsystem. One is called CGS subsystem. And the other subsystem is the MKS. So I got the English system and the metric system, and under the metric system, I got 2 subsystems. One is called CGS, and the other is called MKS. CGS stands for centimeters, grams, seconds. Centimeters, grams, seconds. And MKS, meters, kilograms, seconds. Meters, kilograms, second. If you're wondering why do we got 2 systems? Why do we have 2 subsystems under the metric system? Well, the reason is in science and engineering, if they want to measure something big, you got to know that a centimeter is about like this, and a meter is about like that. So a meter is way bigger than a centimeter. It takes 100 centimeters to make 1 meter. So if I want to measure big things, we usually work with the MKS system. If I want to measure really tiny things, I use the CGS system. So that's the reason for 2. And then to complicate it even more, there's one more system related to the metric system. It's called the SI system. Let me write that down. There's another subsystem called the SI system. Now the SI system, that's the international system of units. International system of units. And this is really the one scientists use over here. Now, if you're wondering why it's the international system of units, well, this is French. So in French, they reverse these words. I think it's System International or something like that in French. That's why the S and I are reversed. But this is the international system of units. And what I want to look at is I want to just kind of list the unit we use for each one of these length, mass, and time under each of these systems or subsystems. And that's kind of what I want you to be familiar with. So here it is. In the English system, for length, the standard unit for length is called the foot. The foot. We use FT for feet. Somebody has something that's 15 feet. I can do it like that. I can say 15 feet. I can write it out like that. Or I can say 15. I can put a line like that. These all mean the same thing. 15 feet. For mass, it's called the slug. And that's a lowercase s. And for time, it's the second. And that's a lowercase s. And I might be wrong about this because you can't have two. I think you might actually have to write this one out. This is definitely a lowercase s. I'll put a question mark by this one. I think you got to write that one out. Now, if you're in mechanical engineering, I got some of my mechanical students say, hold on, Singleton, that's not right. The unit for mass in the English system is the pound mass. So if you had thermodynamics, the class thermodynamics, or if you're MET or ME, you probably think that mass in the English system is a pound mass. It's a pound mass and it's a pound force. And either one of those would be wrong. It's actually a slug. That's the actual unit in the English system. The physics unit is the slug. And I think you got to write it out. I don't think you can use the lowercase s. So you want to be familiar with these. Now, most of the time, though, we'll use one of these systems. We hardly ever use the English system, but you just want to be familiar with that, know that it exists. What we really use are these systems over here. So in the metric system, CGS, the standard unit for length is the centimeter. The standard unit for mass is the gram. And the standard unit for time is the second. So you want to definitely know that. Centimeter for length, grams for mass, and for time we use the second. In the MKS, the standard unit for length is the meter. For mass is the kilogram. And for time is the second. So you'll notice that in all three systems, time is always measured in seconds, but the unit for length or mass just depends on what system we're in. What about the MKS system? Well, the SI system is for length is mass, for length is the meter, for mass is the kilogram, and for time is the second. So in the SI system, the standard unit for length, meter, mass would be kilogram, and time would be seconds. And you're probably wondering why you look at these two, they look exactly the same, and they actually are. The MKS system and the SI system are exactly the same, except for one quantity we're leaving out. The quantity is temperature. So pretty much you can assume that these are the same, SI and MKS, and these are the ones we use most of the time. Where they differ is if I add temperature, I got length, mass, time, temperature. If I add temperature to the mix, then in the English system is degrees Fahrenheit. In the CGS system is degrees Celsius. In the MKS system, it's degrees Celsius. But in the SI system, it's something called a Kelvin, which is a capital K. If you had chemistry, you probably know what that is. If you haven't, let's call it an absolute temperature. That's where they differ. But for the most part, we can consider MKS and SI the same. So here's a table of metric, I'm sorry, here's the system of units. So you want to make this table, and again, you don't have to memorize it, but just be familiar with, know that there's 3 systems, right? 2 systems and 3 subsystems, and just be familiar with these terms. I don't expect you to memorize this. But that other table, metric prefixes, I do expect you to memorize that. You got to know that one. Anybody have any questions over the systems of units? Any questions or comments? Okay, question?
I wanted to, can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. My mic was messing up. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. Did you guys hear my phone call? I thought I was muted, but.
No, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear
Okay,
anything.
cool. That's good. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
No, I think you're okay. All right, any questions? Okay, well, I got the final topic I want to go through tonight, and then I want to give you a list of objectives that I want to make sure that you're clear on what my objectives are for this week, so you'll know what the quiz will be about, and then we'll call it a night. So we'll probably be done around 8:30, about another maybe 10, 12 minutes we should be finished. So if you have the topic sheet, there's one more topic we got to talk about, measured numbers. So let's talk about measured numbers. All right. So what is a measured number? Well, a measured number is exactly what you think it is. A measured number is really some quantity that you got to use an instrument to get information about. So an example of that would be maybe I use a scale to get the mass of something, or I use a ruler to get the length of something. In this class, you'll use a meter, like a digital multimeter. You might use a voltmeter to get the voltage of something. Or you might use an ammeter to get how much current is flowing. Or you might use an ohm meter to measure how much resistance is in this circuit. So we deal with measured numbers. And when we deal with measured numbers, there's a couple of things that come up that I want to make sure that we're clear on. Now, if you have the handout, I'm looking at the section of measured numbers. There's A through D, A, B, C, and D. The last 2 are the most important. So let me just talk about A and B, but I want to spend a little bit of time on C and D. So if you have the handout, it talks about significant digits or significant digit. Now let me say right now, if I have any chemists out there, I think I had 2 chemists, actual chemists, one pharmacist and another chemist in my class over the last couple of years. If you had chemistry or physics, they talk about significant digits. I could spend a whole lecture on just that. There's a whole bunch of rules, but I mean something way simpler than what you might expect to see in physics or what we might mean in chemistry. So my definition for us in here for a significant digit, I have a definition here. I'm just going to read it. It's the number of a measurement that is known to be correct. So if you had chemistry, forget all that stuff for this class. In this class, when I talk about a significant digit, it's the number of a measurement known to be correct. Often what we do, we say it's the number of a measurement known to be correct plus a guess. But here I mean the number of a measurement known to be correct. Now let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say that I got this line. I draw a line on the board. Just imagine that line to be straight. Let's say, all right, I want you to measure the length of that line. Tell me what it is. If I say go measure the line, you'll go get some kind of measuring device, right? You'll get some kind of measuring device. And that measuring device is divided into sections or units. And I don't care what the unit is. This could be meters, feet, inches. It doesn't matter. We just say units. I don't care what unit it is. If I say, all right, measure the line, and you'll look at that and you'll say, all right, it's 1, 2, 3. I know it's 3 units, so it's going to be 3. That's the part I know for sure. But anything other than that is just a guess. If I eyeball that, some person might say, all right, that's about 0.75 of a unit. Another person might say, no, that's closer to 0.8. Somebody might say, oh, it's really 0.9. Somebody might say it's 0.6. The part after the 3 is just a guess. We don't know. It's probably not 0.1, right? It's probably closer to these numbers, but I don't know what it is. The second part, I'm going to say 0.8, but this part right here is just a guess. So by my definition, significant digit, the number of a measurement known to be correct, the only thing you know for sure is 3. That's a significant digit here, the 3. So again, if you had chemistry, I know it's a lot deeper than that. I've been through all of that, trust me, I know. But for us in here, it's the number of the measurement known to be correct. Often in courses, it's the number known to be correct plus a guess. Well, the plus a guess would be this part over here. But for us in here, it's the number known to be correct, and that would be the 3. That's a significant digit. All right, and then the second thing I want to just talk about and not really go into too much detail, B. Now remember, we're dealing with measured numbers. I got to have some kind of instrument to get the number measured, right? So B talks about error. Error. And it asks 2 questions. It says, what is error and where does error come from? So remember, we're talking about measured numbers. What is error in a measured number? What is error? When I say there's error involved, what do I mean? What is error? How would you describe that? Error.
Maybe how poorly or accurately you measure it with your eye, or it could come down to the instrument itself and how well it's calibrated.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm going. So if I say it another way, who was that talking? Was that, I don't know you guys yet.
That was Darren.
Was it Clarence?
Darren.
You said Darren, right?
Yep.
Okay, Darren, thank you. So here's what Darren is saying if I said it another way. You can think about, I like to try to explain things so a kid would understand it. So error is kind of like, how far off are we? How far off is this measurement, is this number? But what I really like is, he said, well, this error, in air quotes, can come from one of 2 places, or actually 2 of 2 places. It could be error in the instrument itself. Maybe when I'm making this measurement, in physics, they always teach us when we're using a meter stick to make a measurement, never start the measurement from over here. Always start the measurement, so maybe from right here, because people take the meter sticks and bang them on the ground, and this edge gets a little shorter. So the error could actually be in the instrument itself. Maybe your meter isn't calibrated, your meter stick's been banged on the ground and just chipped off a little bit. The error can be in the instrument itself, or it could be the way you look at it. When I'm making this error to get to 0.8, if I'm looking dead at it, it might be 0.8. If I'm over here a little bit, then that looks like a different number. The point is this: there's 2 kind of errors in this class. Error in the instrument and error in the actual taking of the measurement, which is called human error. So let's say you're doing a lab for me in here, and you get all this data, and you go home to analyze the data and write up your lab report, and you see that you made a mistake. You see that your numbers are off. You see that there's some error in your measurements. What do? Do you come back and redo the lab? Well, there won't be time for that. What you want to do is to try to explain the error, remembering that or realizing that error comes from one place or another place, or maybe both. Error could be in the instrument itself. Maybe your meter was off. It could be the way you looked at the meter, or maybe you interpreted the measurement. That's human error, or maybe both of those is true. So understand the source of error in the instrument, and error in the actual taking of the measurement, which is human error. All right, and then the other 2 things about measured numbers, I want to close with this. Accuracy and precision. So let me write these on the board, and then I'll talk about it. So we have accuracy. And we have precision. Accuracy and precision. Now, lay people, when we use these words, they use these as if they mean the same thing. But the term accuracy and precision actually have two different meanings in science and engineering. So now we got to be more precise with our language since we're studying the subject. And so when we talk about accuracy in this class, we mean a certain thing. We talk about precision in this class, we mean a certain thing, something different than accuracy. Outside of here, they can mean the same thing, but in here they mean two different things. So the best way to explain it is the way I saw it done is they use this target. Let's say you're making a measurement, but I'm going to express the measurement using a target, like a bullseye. So I got this target. And this target represents measurements. If I get the exact measurement, that means I hit the bullseye. If I get a measurement off from here, that means, well, I'm off a little bit. And the further out I go into these rings, the more off I am with my measurement. So using this target, I want to define accuracy and precision. Okay, so let's say that I'm throwing darts. So the dart or arrow, maybe I'm shooting arrows at this. And let's say the arrows represent either accuracy or precision. So just kind of follow me for a second and you'll see where I'm going with this. All right, so my definition here for accuracy, how close you are to the true value. How close you are to the true value. And my definition here for precision is how often you hit the same value. So make sure you read that. And let's demonstrate that using this target. Let's talk about precision first. Definition for precision, how often you hit the same value. Not the right value, but the same value. So I shoot an arrow, I shoot a blue arrow at this target and I hit right here. I shoot a green arrow at the target, I hit right here. And I shoot a red arrow and I hit right here. Now the actual value of my measurement is here, but I hit over here 3 times. Each time I hit the same spot. So my definition for precision is how often you hit the same value. This device would be precise because it hit the same value again and again and again, but it's not accurate because it didn't hit the actual value, which is over here. I'll do the same thing. I'm going to shoot a red arrow a second time. This time I hit here. I'll shoot a green arrow. It hits me right here. I'll shoot a blue arrow, it hits here. So now what would you say about my measurement? What would you say?
It's both accurate and precise.
Yeah.
It's both accurate and precise. It's accurate because each time we hit the same value, and it's precise because we hit that same value over and over again. So the takeaway is this. If you're accurate, then by definition, you're precise at the same time. If you're accurate, you're also precise. If you're precise, if the instrument is precise, it doesn't mean it's accurate. So I can get on a scale, and maybe I weigh 100 pounds. The scale, when I step on it, it might say I weigh 105 pounds. Each time I get on it, it says 105, 105, 105. It's not accurate because I don't weigh 105. I weigh 100. But since it gives me the same value over and over again, we can say it's precise. So I usually have students explain the difference between these two terms. And to me, the best way to do it is just using this example I gave you. So you can give me this back and I'll know what you mean.
Question.
Okay. All right. Now, any questions or comments on anything we talked about so far?
How is that affected by like sort of like tolerance, right? So precision is gonna be based off of what your tolerance is, right?
Yeah. Now we're getting into something that we'll get into in lab. But yeah, so we'll start to express values like this. So for instance, we'll do something called color coding. We'll color code resistors. And don't worry about what I'm doing right now. I'll explain it in lab. When we write a number, we'll write it like this. We'll write it like, say one value we talked about, one quantity is called an ohm. And an ohm is actually a unit of resistance. And I showed you the symbol for it is like this. So I might have a resistor that's 1,000 ohms. But really, it's 1,000 ohms. Well, the way we're going to write it is we're going to write it like this. It's going to be plus or minus some amount. So it might be, I'll just take 10%. So in your question, embedded in your question, we get into something like this, and that's a question for lab. But yeah, in short, yeah, you're right. But for now, we'll just kind of go with this target. In lab, I'll explain the meaning of this. We'll go into more detail of it. Okay? You let me get away with that? Who was that?
That was Darren again.
Was that Jeremy?
Darren.
No.
Oh, Darren. Okay, Darren. So when we get to this, Darren, you can ask me your question, which will be in lab in about 2 weeks, and we can go into some more of this. I want to keep it simple tonight, though. Anybody else? Okay, well, don't sign off, guys, yet, because I want to tell you the objectives, because the objectives become the quiz next week. You'll have a quiz this week, but it'll be really, really simple. Just write up something for me. Next week is when you actually have to apply the stuff we went through tonight. So take out a sheet of paper, write this down before you sign off, and then we'll call it the night. So this is week 1 objective. If somebody has their mic unmuted, can you please mute your mics? So week 1 objectives. All right. The first thing I will expect you to understand is why is mathematics used to express concepts, laws, and ideas in science. So the answer to that question is one of the objectives. So knowing this is what I shouldn't put it in a question form, but be able to answer that question. The second objective is you should be able to put numbers in scientific notation. And the third is you should be able to put numbers in engineering notation. And the fourth objective is you should be able to write quantities my writing is terrible. Write quantities using symbols from table of metric prefixes. And then the last thing, explain the difference between accuracy and precision. All right, so why do we use math as a language in science and engineering? Be able to talk about that. To express, why do we use math to express concepts, ideas, and laws in science and engineering? Why do we use the language of mathematics? You should be able to put numbers into scientific notation. You should be able to put numbers in engineering notation. And once in engineering notation, you should be able to use that table of metric prefixes to replace the power of 10 with the correct metric symbol. And then the last thing, you should be able to explain the difference between accuracy and precision. I'm not looking for a technical definition, like from chemistry or physics. I just want using that target, know that one has to do with hitting the right spot, and the other is how often we hit one deals with repeatability. So just to sum it up in a nutshell. So these are the objectives for week 1. If you can answer these questions or talk about these concepts, then you should do fine on quiz number 2. Quiz number 1, it's just something you'll write up for me, and you'll do fine with that. So here's what you have to do. You got the first homework. Look on Blackboard to see the due date. Homework 1, you got that. That'll be due. You'll have there's a assignment there that's going to count as a quiz. You'll look at a video on how big is the universe. So that assignment, I believe the video is already there. The assignment you can upload to Blackboard, so that'll be due. You have to study for the quiz, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Anybody have any questions or comments for me before we sign off?
So do homework 1 and then do how big is the universe and study things on the board.
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to add to that is don't forget, get your multimeter. Lab 1 is posted on the Blackboard, the video for Lab 1, but to actually watch the video, you need your digital multimeter. So if you have any questions about the meter, where to get it, if you get a meter, you want to know something about it or a certain type, if you have anything you need to ask me about it, you can send me a text, but you got to get that meter. So yeah, homework, the video, get your digital multimeter, make sure you study this for the quiz, and then the universal assignment, you should be in good shape. Questions or comments?
I had I guess it's a question regarding one of the texts.
Okay. Oh, hold on. I'm glad you said that. Guys, this is important. I'm hoping you guys didn't sign off yet. I need you to send me a text for attendance. What I need you to do is get your cell phone. Hold your question, whoever asked that. When you said text, I remember. I got to turn in attendance to financial aid office so it doesn't mess up your financial aid. It was important I keep attendance for the first 2 weeks. So what I need for you to do is to text this number. Send me a text to 513-494-6162. You want to write PET 131-200 in the text, and then write your first name and your last name. So go ahead and text me right now, this number, 513-494-6162. Put EET 131-200, and then put your first name and last name and send me that text. And I'm going to use that for attendance to say that you attended class. Now, where we're at, ask me your question again. I forgot what you said. What did you say? What was your question?
It's regarding one of the textbooks. I believe it's the Experiments in Basic Circuits.
Okay.
So as of right now in the bookstore, it is back ordered, and everywhere that I'm looking online, minimum ship date is like 2 to 4 weeks before anybody would get it, like on Amazon especially.
Okay, so here's what I'll do. Anybody else finding that to be true?
Yeah, I tried too. Same thing.
Okay, so I have an e-copy of the 9th edition. I'm going to send a link out, and I think let me try this, guys. If somebody can just hang with me for a minute. Hold on a second. I'm going to try something. I got a 9th edition. I'm going to try to send you a link to it, and let me know if this works. And you can use this until you get your book from But let me try. I got to go to my Google Drive, and I'll try to see if we can make this work. Give me just a second to find it. All right, now my link copied. Copy link. All right, got the link. Let me try to send you guys this link and see if this works, but it's not letting me out of Chrome. I think my system might have crashed. Let me try something here. Chrome is not responding. All right, can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I'm about to post. I think my system crashed. Okay, so okay, let me see here. Okay, I just sent you an announcement. Somebody go to that link and let me know if you're able to go to my ebook. I just sent you an announcement.
I've got something here. Answers to odd numbered problems, table of standard resistor values, derivations. Is that the book? Oh yeah, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess it works there. So let me tell you what that is. That's That's an e-copy of the 9th edition, which I guess you can use that till you get your book. I wouldn't use this as a replacement for the book because I use the 10th edition, and the problems are the same, but I think the numbers are off. I think you can use that at least for the reading and the first homework assignment, and probably the next couple homework assignments. You can use that book to at least do the reading and the first assignment. I think you should. That should get you through to the books come to the bookstore. Okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I just want to. I have something to discuss with you before we sign off here, but I don't think everybody needs to be a part of it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I will send you a private link. Can you text me your name and say send link, and then I can open up a private link.
Yeah.
Me and you.
I mean, it's not like I want to be private from everybody, but I just don't want to take up everybody's time.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yep, I have.
What's your question?
Yep. So as you mentioned, like we have 4 exams. Yeah, so we have to come to campus for 3 exams like that.
Yeah, you'll come to campus for 3 exams on your lab. It'll be on the lab day. Today you're coming anyway on Tuesday. You come to Tuesday for lab. So one of those days, well, actually for 3 of those days, I'll give you exams, and I'll let you know a couple weeks before when those days will be.
Oh, okay. So, if you don't mind, could I know which day will be we were to lab? Because I have some work. I have working. I'm
Oh, you have a
working
work?
in the evening. On Tuesday. So yeah, I would like to adjust my schedule beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Normally your lab time is every Tuesday. Actually, you know what? I forgot what you guys is different. So I'll let you know beforehand. I was thinking it would be next week, but now that I think about it, it may not be next week. So yeah, I'll let you know. I'll give you a schedule so you can adjust your work schedule. I think you and I probably need to talk one-on-one on how that'll work. Okay?
Yeah. So how do you mean like we have to talk one-on-one for schedule or?
Yeah. Just so I can think about how the schedule's going to work. Cause see, for you guys, it's different. So the night class, normally in the daytime, we'll meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then they'll have a special day they come up here for lab. But with you guys, since we have lab and theory the same night, we can't do it that way. I can't have you guys do a lecture over the web and then drive in here for lab the same day. So we'll have certain days we'll spend in here for labs, and I got to figure out what that's going to be. But I want to talk to you first about your work schedule, and then I can give you a better answer of when that'll be. Okay?
Okay.
So what I would say is just send me a text, and maybe sometime, it won't be tonight because I'll be here late, but maybe sometime tomorrow we can talk by phone, and I can see how to. I want to get some input from you before I work that schedule out.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So yeah.
We'll talk by phone tomorrow. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure you send me a text just reminding me to talk to you about your work schedule in the lab, and I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then let me see, who else do we have? Still got 12 people. Anybody else have questions?
So yeah, do you mean like quiz one is so week one objective is like we have to understand these all 5 things, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah, for the quiz. Those are the objectives for the quiz. If you can, answer or talk about those 5 things, you should be okay.
oh, so when is the quiz?
When is the quiz?
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking was the quiz would be on Tuesdays, but since we're not going to meet here every Tuesday, I may end up giving you the quiz online. I have to work that out. So your class is a little different because we meet and have lab on the same night. So I can't give you, like I can in the day class, I can't give you a lab assignments when you gotta be at home for theory or vice versa. So probably this quiz will probably be online. I'll work it out and I'll let everybody know.
So are you gonna let us know when we actually have to like be in person versus?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
For this week we have to do 3 things like homework 1 and then lab 1 and then assignments.
Yeah. And what I'll do is, once I figure out our lab schedule, if you're, those due dates, I can have you submit it through Blackboard. If you're not coming in for lab, if it's a day you're not coming in, I'll just have you submit it through Blackboard, and I'll be able to collect the work.
Yes. Sorry, could you please repeat again, please?
Yeah, I can repeat it. What I said was, if it's a day that you come in from lab, you'll turn your work in. You actually bring it in to me and hand it in. But if we're not meeting for lab, you can submit the work through Blackboard. You can turn it into Blackboard. But I'll let you know. I got to work all that out. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anytime something's due, I'll let you know. I'll make sure you have plenty of time to hand in the work and you know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, this class is a little different from me. I haven't taught a class where we have lab and theory on the same night, but the students are not here. It's online. This is the first time, so there's some things I got to work out. But I'll make sure you'll have plenty of time to turn everything in, and it'll work out just fine. I just got to work out a schedule for myself and for you guys.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
So.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll work out. Just give me some time to come up with a schedule, and I just gotta work out some things for you.
Yeah, that will be great. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Well, Mike, we got 11 people still signed on, so you can either talk now or I can send you a link where it's just me and you. I don't know how much privacy you need.
It's not private. It's similar to Nin's problem, but my issue is a little more complex because I travel for work, and for instance, I'm doing this call out of a hotel room right now. I don't always know when I'm going out, and we do dry ice manufacturing stuff, so which they're using a lot for the vaccine, which means that I'm on the road a ton lately. So even if we had a schedule for when classes are, I would be missing some of them. So I was wondering if there's some way I could do it remotely. I'll almost always be free in the evening, but I might not be in town, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that because I was listening to BBC, the British broadcast, and they had a whole segment on dry ice. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it being a shortage of dry ice, but that's really interesting. But yeah, what we'll do is, since you're dealing with that, my schedule is pretty flexible, and I'm here in the evening some days. I'm here at night some days. So I think if it's a day that you're on the road and there's some work due or a lab, then we'll just have to schedule. You have to come in maybe at another time, and I could, it could, as long as we work it out, it could be a time I can even meet you here. I don't mind meeting you here, and we can work it out to where if you can't come during the scheduled time, we'll make a time where you and I can meet maybe one-on-one. I can give you the lab. Either way, you'll be able to do it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. We'll work it out. Just try to let me know when you can, when you're on the road. And if I'm handing some documents out, then I can set something aside for you. But I'll work with you, and I'll be very flexible.
Okay, thank you a lot for that. Yeah, and I'll almost always know Monday morning if I'm going to be there Tuesday. So
Okay.
that'll be the latest.
So what I'll do is you might have to send me an email or text to remind me, but I'll send you the schedule of times when I'm here on campus. And by looking at that, if you miss a scheduled lab, then you can look at those other times to see if it fits into your schedule, and you can come up during those times. Even if I'm teaching, you can be here, you can be in another room, and you can work all this. You can work stuff out. As long as I'm here, to answer your questions, I think it'll work out okay.
Okay, excellent. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. Okay, see, I still have 7 people. Any more questions? Let me see who's out there. Let's see, Darren. Okay, people signing off. Nolan, Jason. Darren, you have a question?
Nope, I was just getting ready to say have a good night.
Thank you. You have a good night too. I appreciate that. Robert left. Okay, well, no more questions, guys. You have a great night. I'll see you next week. I will be sending out some information on our schedule, and I'll let you know when we have to come in for lab. And then if anybody needs to talk to me, I'll be available tomorrow to talk by phone if we need to. So I'll be posting some more information out with a more accurate schedule on how this lab thing is going to work. Guys, have a great rest of the night, and I will see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So do we, the last thing, yeah, I would ask is, do we need to come next week? No?
Well, I think I'm not going to have you come next week only because I need to give the schedule some more thought. So if you need the schedule work, go ahead and do that, and I won't have you come in next week. We'll have another lecture. We'll probably have our lab, not next week, but the week after. We'll probably have our first lab then.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week, we'll plan to meet online like we did tonight. And if you have to work, then this will be recorded. You can always go back and watch the recording if you miss it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I will see you next week.
Yeah, bye-bye all. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ron.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.